Thank you, Rainbow Push. I'm going to try to get through my remarks without crying. But truly, from the bottom of my heart, my family's heart, we thank you all for having come out. This past week, I had another event that was really cool. Some of the young activists, Brother Will Calloway, who we owe such a great deal of credit to, invited me to come out to be a part in the viewers section for the young child, Laquan McDonald, Brother Jedediah. Thank you, and Mark and Paul, Eric Russell, Reverend Greg Livingston, Reverend Ira Ackery, Reverend Marshall Hatch, Reverend Paul Jakes. I'm going to introduce you myself, Reverend Hunter. But I thank you all. Oftentimes we heap so much pain and take out our anxiety against the church. But I want to say thank God for the few, the brave, the strong that showed up. And those of us that have some level of activism, we get mad with one another on tactics, but we all have the same outcome goal. Some people fall short, but we all have to be here because there's only so few that actually show up. Many people will be at home, textbooking, Facebooking, Twittering, periscoping, talking about you, knocking on you, spewing negative things about you. But I want to say thank God to my father for 77 years of life, for 50 years of unrelenting service. And as I prepare to close, it was during this season 13 years ago that I was stopped on 26th Street driving an Acura car, that the police put me in the back of a car with no door locks that you could open, windows you could not roll down. First it was a patrol car, then another one, then a sergeant and a lieutenant, a captain, a commander, a paddy wagon. There were 8 vehicles blocking the streets as I was trying to build out a wireless retail store. One white officer in the car, one black officer. The partner that was in the car with me kept saying, "This is Jesse Jackson's son, Jesse Jackson's son. You can't do this to Jesse Jackson's son." I had nothing to say. You have the right to remain silent, and you should. This had nothing to do with me. This is any black child that could have been stopped over there on 26th Street. So the officer said, "Why didn't you tell us you were Jesse Jackson's son?" Like, my father, the white officer said, marched in the civil rights days, and the black officer quickly chimed in and said, "This has nothing to do with race." I said, "Write me up, give me a ticket, let me know why I was detained for 45 minutes, why I couldn't go get home to see my child's soccer game. Write it up." And the patrolman looked at the sergeant, he looked at the lieutenant, looked at the captain, commander, and with a nod and a wink, no one wanted to write that paperwork up. I had been gone from Chicago for 10 years. I came back and I said, "This is still going on?" So my father told me to come up and speak one day, 13 years ago. I was 39 years of age here at Rainbow Push. I started off in speech therapy. I had to go to the I had to go over all the consonants and nouns and vowels, and if I get too excited right now, I'll start stuttering right here. So I've got a piece of glass in my heart and my wound to those children that need a speech pathologist. We seem not to have money for the speech pathologists and our English teacher, writing teachers, but we have all the money we need for overtime for police patrol. So it was 13 years ago that my father gave me this opportunity to come on this stage. I wanted to lay in the cut. This was not my problem, really. I was working in investment banking, working with some of the very wealthiest people in this nation, had worked on Wall Street, worked in Beverly Hills. This was not my problem. But I knew it was our problem that I had to speak up on. So my father, in his own way, just pushed me out front and center. And then I went online to figure out what this was about, because it had to be bigger than me. And I was 39 years of age, and something got in my soul. I said, Reverend Martin Luther King died at 39 years of age. What do I have to say has been the essence of my life if this were the last day on earth? What did I do? That's a question you should think about as well. If you haven't been at a march in Chicago, you haven't been at a demonstration, you haven't stood up for anybody at any time, for any reason, you ought to be ashamed of yourself and change that around. And there are going to be more opportunities. And I'm going to ask two people to join me right quick. It was a young child named Marcus Wiggins. He was 13 years of age, tortured by Commander John Burge. I spoke his name from this program, and then lo and behold, as the Lord would have it, a woman came forward named Miss Johnson. Miss Johnson, come forward. She came from that very same seat on the stage. And the following week, she says to me, she says, I'm Miss Johnson. I'm Miss Johnson. I'm Marcus Wiggins' mother. I said, how are you, Ms. Johnson? How is Marcus? I tried to make some small, idle talk. I said, what's Marcus been doing? Where has he been? What's he up to? This had now been better than 10 years since he had Commander John Burge fired. She says, the city paid us $96,000. None of the officers ever got prosecuted. 7 years after the statute of limitation was up, those same officers, being vindictive, came back and framed my child, and he's still in jail. I'm going to ask your help going forward. We're going to get Marcus Wiggins out, a 13-year-old child that was tortured by John Burge. And I'm going to ask that you hold Miss Johnson up in prayer. She's had 3 heart attacks, cancer, and everything. She doesn't look like what she's been through. And when I went down to visit Marcus with her, this woman is strong, and she holds on every day. We're going to pray to bring Marcus back home, and you can help us do that. I kept speaking about Commander John Burge, and then another man pops up. I'm just talking, speaking God's word and truth from this podium, not knowing if it's falling on the soil, the sand, the rocks, in between the cracks. And somehow or another, miraculously, after 24 years of being incarcerated, 9 years in the Supermax in prison, without being able to touch another human being for 9 years, Brother Daryl Cannon, who was tortured by John Burge, was released and found innocent of all charges by the framing of John Burge. To God be the glory, and I say thank you, Rainbow Push. I say thank you to those in our church and our faith community. In closing, I saw a miracle happen just yesterday. I saw a miracle happen. Reverend Hunter, as you make your way to the stage, I saw a miracle happen. I don't know what you call a miracle. I saw a young activist not let it go for 400 days until the tapes were released in high-def 1080i, even after the police went into the Burger King and deleted the video, even after we saw an officer that was supposed to be testifying, lying. We've got 3 other officers that are going to be on trial October 30th. You all have made a difference. Let me be clear. I saw a miracle. I saw the humanity in all persons be affirmed. The prosecutor got everything that they wanted. In a city that's 40% African American, a county that's 24% African American, they got 9 white jurors, 1 African American, 1 Hispanic, 1 Latino. But I saw a miracle where humanity spoke up and people saw the truth. The prosecution got everything they wanted and they lost. God is the victory. I would tell you this, the prosecution strategy, and I'm not a lawyer, but I do believe in God as our defense attorney. What I saw them do that was shameful and spiteful. What they need to understand, Laquan, a tax-paying citizen, Laquan had a tax return. Laquan was a responsible child. He was born with a substance abuse in his system, but God was taking it out. He had no drugs in his body. When they tried to silence that child, from the grave, the bones have spoken. The prosecution tried. The FOP tried. They tried to have a dead child on the defense. God has something to say about a child. God was his defender.